Okay, well, Mr. Brikho, thank you so much for joining us. You've been the CEO of AMEC, a British-based engineering and project management company. In that time, you've turned it around in an amazing manner through a process of divestment, selling off subsidiaries that didn't fit, and purchasing new subsidiaries to expand your global footprint and your skills base. Could you tell us, to start off with, a little bit about your own background? Because I understand you were born in Lebanon, you grew up in Sweden, you worked for the ABB engineering company. How did all of this come about, and how did you come to AMEC?
Well, thank you very much for your question. I mean, you covered most of my background. Yeah, I got my baccalaureate in Lebanon, and when the war started, so my parents has decided to move to Sweden, and that's where I moved as a teenager, and then went to school and university there. And after my university studies, I worked for a Swedish company called ASEA, and when that Swedish company merged with a Swiss company called BBC and formed a group called ABB, that's when I also moved out to Switzerland. So I have my home base in Switzerland, but since then I think I lived and worked in about 5 or 6 countries after that, so I do not know what I am today.
And what prompted you to join AMEC?
I think the value which we could actually unleash. I still remember the day when I was in my office at ABB when I got a call from an executive search company telling me about the opportunity at AMEC. I actually Googled AMEC, and I told him that I'm turning down the offer after 2 minutes of Googling because it was good enough for me. But the executive search company was very insistent in order that I could check on this on detail. And the more I checked out about AMEC, the more value I saw at it. And therefore, I decided at that time to leave my job as an executive vice president of ABB, sitting on the board of ABB, to take the leadership of AMEC.
Because it was then a much smaller company than ABB, and in terms of revenues, it still is relatively small in world scale.
True, but for me, it's not about the scale. It's about what are you trying to do and what you are trying to achieve. And I think when I made the SWOT analysis about what it was AMEC about, it had a very good, strong relationship with its clients. It had a good people, but actually it lacked any type of a vision, it lacked a strategy, and it lacked the drive. And that's what I needed to come and try to give a hand and change.
So how did you go about reshaping the business portfolio of AMEC?
This is a very tricky position when you are appointed as a newly chief executive officer. You come to a large organization and you don't actually know anybody in that organization. So I think you need to be very humble, you need to be very modest, and you need to be very open in communication what you are trying to do and what you are trying to achieve. So what I did is that from the first day at work, I gathered the management team and I said, we have 60 days to do the following exercise. We need to define a new vision for the company. We need to move a company which is non-performing, having a margin of relatively between 3 to 3.5%, and we have the opportunity to triple this in no time. The question is that what is the way and what is the path which we need to follow? And therefore I introduced a model which is called activity-based costing model. So we plugged in all our 40 sectors and analyzed each of these sectors. And there was a lot of enlightenments. We discovered that some of the businesses which we felt that they were core business of AMEC, for 10 years, not 1 quarter, not 2 quarters, but for 40 quarters in average, we actually did not make money. And once you have put all this data on the table, you take out the heat and the emotion from the discussion, and people understand that a change needs to happen. The question is how. So once we have finished our exercise in 60 days, we presented that to the board, and on the 73rd day, we presented that to the UK Stock Exchange market, and I think it had quite a good success.
So you had to, at the same time, divest and invest. How did you set about that? How did you balance the two activities?
what you need to start with is that you need to have a clarity of vision. And the vision which we had at that time is that looking on the demand side from the market, looking on what are the issues of the world going to be, we said that we should position AMEC into these different sectors, into these different geographies. So once we have defined what we want to be, it was easy actually to define what we do not want to be. And as we have defined that, so we defined the businesses, which we consisting of our core business. That's the business to continue. So that's the business which we said that we are going to make investments in terms of acquisition, in terms of talents and skills, but at the same time to manage the portfolio which we wanted to divest in order to be able to divest it at value. And that's exactly the road which we followed.
And as you started with, as you say, 40 sectors, which is enormous, you narrowed it down to 10. I believe now you've added one more, which is water.
Yeah.
Could you describe what are the sectors that you're now focusing on?
We are focusing on 4 markets, one being the oil and gas market, which is consisting of 2 sectors, which is what we call the conventional oil and gas and the non-conventional oil and gas. Then it is metals and minerals. Then we have also the clean power technologies, which is including nuclear, including conventional power, renewable energy, and also transmission and distribution. And in the environment and infrastructure, where we have also 4 different sectors, where water and consulting are the largest growing sectors into that business.
Well, these are certainly not sectors for small fry. These are big companies, big players. How do you situate AMEC alongside these big players, considering that you still are relatively small? Do you need to grow more? Do you need to double your size?
Well, I mean, it has been an interesting journey because in many of the sectors which we have actually defined and committed ourselves that these are going to be the core businesses of AMEC, we were not the number 1 player, we were not the number 2 player, and we were not the number 3 players. And that's why we needed to do quite a lot of activity in order to be able to gain that market position. But in order to gain a market position, you need to have a plan. So we started to build up the plan, and the plan required a number of elements which we needed to have in order to deliver on the aspiration which we have. The first thing which we needed to do is that we needed to harmonize our tools and the processes. The reason for that, AMEC is a 164 years old company, but actually never got integrated. It was the first time which we started to integrate AMEC. We had 60 different engineering tools, we had 19 different payroll systems, we had over 20 accounting systems. So all that needed to be harmonized in order to be able to share the load in different locations in the world and provide a homogeneous solutions to our clients. So first, integration of processes and tools. 2 is the investment of our people. People are the main asset of AMEC. Today, if you go to the balance sheet of AMEC, you will be seeing less than £50 million on our asset. If you divide that by 29,000 engineers and project managers and consultants which we have in the world, you get an iPad. So it's not so much of actually fixed asset as we do not have a manufacturing units, as we do not have any yards or any vessels. So the main asset which we have are our people, and therefore we said that we need to invest in increasing the qualification, the skills, and the talents of our organization. The third thing, in order to be able to achieve a good value relationship which we have with our customers, we need to move from a transaction model to a strategic business model. And we move from being asked from time to time by our customers to be a trusted advisor to our customers. The relationship between our employees and the customers, that's what AMEC is about, is the one AMEC approach, and that's makes the change, and that makes the difference.
This is the Value 2015 project that you have launched. You launched in 2009. There's a 4th item in this that you didn't mention, isn't there? And that's the profitability of the company.
Of course. So what we said is that we need to invest in our people, we need to push the boundaries on our skills, we need to push the boundaries on our geographic footprint, but also we need to see about how are we able to add value to our customers. But the fourth part, as you said, is that how do we move from a lazy balance sheet, as it's called in the city, in order to have an effective balance sheet. What does that mean? We said, in order to improve our earning per share, we said the following things need to happen, because these are the ingredients which are involved. First, we need to push our top line further. So from 2006 to 2000, for instance, and 11, the business today is double the size, despite that we had 2 recessions in between. The second thing is that we needed to improve the profitability of the business. We came from 3.5% EBITDA margin. We delivered 2010 and 2011, the same level of high margin of 9.2% in these 2 years. The third thing is that we needed to optimize our taxes, and that's what we have done. We came from 30% tax level down to mid-20s, which is, I think, is a very good and a very healthy base. And the fourth thing, which we said, is that we need to use the money for a further acquisitions in order to be able to grow the business even further. And that's the 4 elements which are actually acting together in order to be able to improve the EPS. And the promise which we have, we said that we will be delivering as a minimum £1 or 100 pence per share by 2015, which is the starting point was 2009, which was not more than 46.2. So that means more than double in 5 years period.
And in the meantime, you're still on the acquisition trail. You've just bought a company in Australia in the oil and gas sector, a very exciting sector worldwide. But what is the geographical footprint that you're looking for now?
When I inherited AMEC was almost in 2 or 3 countries in the world, with a very smaller presence in some other 10 countries. Today, AMEC is in 40 countries, and that's not good enough for us, because if we want to be truly global, then we need to move out with our global clients, whether they are in the oil and gas industry, mining, or power generation, or others. And as that demand and that request comes from our clients, we need to have a very good, solid presence in many of these different locations. And in some of the places, we need to buy nucleus and build up on that nucleus on an organic way. And some of the time it doesn't work, and we need to have an accelerated model. That's why we buy a bigger size companies. Now, the priorities in terms of sectors, they are very clear. It's oil and gas, it is mining, it is on the nuclear, and also it is on the water business. These are high priorities for us. But looking on the geography, back to your question, we were very much heavy in the Northern Hemisphere and much heavy in the OECD countries. The markets which we see a good pace for growth for us in the coming future, Australasia, and that's why we have made 5 acquisitions in Australia just lately. In Latin America, so Brazil is becoming very important, apart from Chile, Peru, and also Colombia. The Middle East, we have now a big presence in the Middle East, and in some countries in Africa, which we are now present today, which we have not been present in the past. So these are the areas of importance for us in order to be able to serve our client wherever they are and at the right value.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brikho.
Well, thank you very much, Nick, having me here.